Hello everyone, it's Noel back with our 35th out of 100 original characters. We're getting there, guys. Today's OC is my boy Celeste. He lives in Quebec, Canada as a French to English translator for several small companies around the city, and he owns a white Persian cat named Fifi. I decided to try using the Blick studio markers with the Arteza markers just to see if they could work harmoniously together, and they certainly did. I also noticed that between the two brands, a few colors looked very similar. Dupes, if you will. I won't get into that today, but I really missed my brush tip markers and was really happy to go back to them. At one point, I was very curious to see if I could pop off the brush tip from the Blick markers and use them on the Arteza markers, and they kind of actually do fit, but I don't really know if it was actually working because there was pigment still in the nib, so a little bit more research is needed on that front. You know, unless Arteza actually wants to make brush tip markers. Or at least like replacement nibs. I mean, come on Arteza, throw us a bone here. Again, my poor line art was smudged while coloring, and I was trying to be super careful while I colored, like avoiding the edges as much as possible, but you can only prevent things so much. Seriously, does anyone have any suggestions on a good marker ink? Anyone? Bueller? I've done a little research and I found that the Higgins Black Magic ink came up a lot as being marker friendly, and I've used the Higgins ink on my paper, like my marker paper, my Bristol, and it always feathers, so maybe I'm just not shaking it right, maybe I'm not letting the pigments really get all nice and good up in there, so I'll have to play around with that more, especially if it's like a holy grail ink. Moving on, today's personal story. My senior year of high school had a lot of interesting moments, and we will get to those certainly in another OC video, but let's finish the saga of my time in Westside. Our adjudication this time was in Sandusky, Ohio, which is a 5.5-hour bus trip from my hometown. This time my mom came as a chaperone, which was really exciting. We stayed at the Kalahari Resort, which, if you're not familiar, has a wild jungle theme to it. They have petting zoos and exotic animals, and while I no longer like the idea of keeping or housing wild animals unless it's for rehabilitative purposes, at the time, it was actually kind of a fun and interesting experience. The Kalahari is known for its amenities, including an indoor water park, which Westside took full advantage of. There was one ride, which I like to call the Big Flush, because it was a large funnel not dissimilar to a giant toilet bowl, which you rode down on like a giant turd and down into a spout, into a tank that was actually rather deep. And as someone who doesn't swim well, it was the most terrifying experience of my life. And I would do it again. Now, we didn't do much in the way of actually petting any animals. I think there was actually an area for the zoo and all that stuff. I didn't personally go to it, but maybe my friends did. But we did have fun playing around with the waterfowl that gathered out front, especially this giant goose that had a really bad attitude. We also got to spend time at Cedar Point, and one ride I remember waiting in line for was the Top Thrill Dragster. My mom and I, plus a few friends of mine, waited in line for no less than 2 hours. The ride was stopped multiple times for maintenance issues, and there were a few times where we questioned why we were even bothering. And finally, it was our turn. Now, 1 minute, you're waiting for the ride to start. The next, your eyeballs are darn near popping out of your skull. Now, I don't normally keep my eyes closed on roller coasters, but if I hadn't, I felt like I was going to lose my contact lenses. It was over just as soon as it had started. It was a rush. Now, I don't remember what prizes we were awarded this time around, but this year we participated in women's choir, men's choir, madrigal choir, and jazz choir. And this is the first time I really remember watching the other competing schools, which was really cool because the one show choir was putting on all of the songs from Cats, and they were dressed up for it, guys, and it was really cool and it was really entertaining. Then, of course, our mini vacay was over and we had to make the 5.5-hour trip back home. It was bittersweet since this would be the last time I would ever compete with this choir. It was a fun run. I made a lot of fun memories and friends, and while it seems like it happened a million years ago, I still look back on it really fondly. So ends the saga of the West Side Singers. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more art-related content, I would totally appreciate if you would subscribe. And remember to draw what you love and love what you draw. I don't think it was that long this time, was it?